Guys, look!
Money. Teen Titans Go. Teen Titans Go? You can't be a cartoon reviewer without talking about Teen Titans Go. I mean, it's the worst show ever made and the front to humanity, isn't it? Why wouldn't I talk about it? I mean, Cartoon Network cancelled the most popular show ever just because I don't like it. This is what 10 years of being in an echo chamber does to a man. In 2013, a certain cartoon premiered on Cartoon Network that forever changed the lives of terminally online Teen Titans Go. You would be hard-pressed to find a kids cartoon more controversial and hated than this one. Even as little as 4 to 5 years ago, it was still pretty common to find legions of people hating the show on principle. And you can still find them today, it doesn't take much effort. There was an entire niche on YouTube that consisted of building your small cartoon review channels by dumping all over Teen Titans Go. It was very popular to hate it. In fact, it's difficult to find a cartoon YouTuber that hasn't made an entire video dedicated to it. I mean, that just doesn't happen. What are you, blasphemous? It didn't matter how repetitive it got, repeating the same damn points over and over and over and over and over. You'd get the views, you'd get the subscribers, you'd rally the troops of the TTG hate-driven military to support every non-substantial thing you say. And oh boy, did people have a lot to say about this show, from calling it one of the worst shows, not just cartoons, but shows ever made, all the way to and it was inescapable. What's that? You never watched Teen Titans Go? Too bad! You do hate Teen Titans Go. Everyone hates Teen Titans Go. The security system takes control of Squidward's house. That was it. That was just a mediocre parody of the Teen Titans for kids. It really wasn't that bad. The cartoon community betrayed us. Alright everyone, enough with the screaming. Let's start being constructive. I understand a lot of people may have some intense feelings towards this show, and I do hope you find love and a place to rent, but let's scale back a bit. What exactly is Teen Titans Go, and just why is it so hated to the point that grown-ass adults place it on the same level as stuff like Velma and that one SpongeBob episode with the toenail? And then we'll get into why I think the show really isn't that bad, and after 10 years I think people should learn to chill out a little. I'm pretty sure you all know the story by now. DC's Teen Titans was adapted into a Cartoon Network series in the early 2000s. Everyone loved it, and to this day it is still widely considered to be the best depiction of the Teen Titans ever put on screen, though I realize that isn't really saying much when the only competition is the Batman show. But still, it's one of my personal favorites too. Then the show got cancelled, and fast forward 7 years later, yes, 7 years later, a new Teen Titans show released on Cartoon Network in 2013 called Teen Titans Go, keeping the same voice actors and actresses from the original show. It ditched the action and gritty tone of the original series for a more zany and cartoony approach, acting as more of a parody series mostly aimed at young kids. I'll never really understand why everyone calls Teen Titans Go a reboot. I know the term reboot has become a kind of catch-all term for a lot of things, but nothing about Teen Titans Go seemed to be rebooting the original show. There's basically none of the original show's DNA left intact besides the vocal performances, and it's not like comic book characters are strangers to having silly parodies aimed at younger audiences made about them. However, none of these facts really mattered to the devoted fanbase of the original Teen Titans show that had been developed over its short runtime. After 7 years of being left on a cliffhanger, to see the Teen Titans come back to Cartoon Network in such a radically different form felt a little insulting. Probably. I think what a rational person would do in this situation would be to acknowledge that this show was clearly not originally made with malice or to mock the fans of the original show. It was just made to entertain kids, and while I will not deny that it is far less sophisticated than the original show, and at times does seem to be on the verge of brain rot, that doesn't devalue the fact that it's clearly not trying to compete with it in any form. They were just kind of minding their own business and happy of being a show for kids. However, rationality doesn't exactly mean much in the face of hundreds of thousands of people, likely very young, who were legitimately emotionally invested in the original Teen Titans. And going 7 years with nothing only to see this was bound to lead to a reaction typical of any shitstorm to grace the internet. There's certainly an argument to be made that the show's existence and how it was marketed was a little tone deaf, and that the only reason the hate for TTG really started to spiral out of control was the fact that the original show ended on a cliffhanger only to get canned. People are justified for being upset about that. But 7 f***ing years, dude, like, get it. If after the better half of a decade you explode with anger seeing a child-friendly interpretation of the Teen Titans completely divorced from the show that finished airing 7 years ago, then I really don't see the rationality. Of course, this is not to discredit the fact that people had a right to be upset at Cartoon Network cancelling the original series and then airing something completely different. That's understandable, to an extent, and this also does not invalidate any legitimate criticism people had towards Teen Titans Go as a TV show, which there is plenty of and a lot of it is valid. The show definitely does not pretend to be high art or act like it's anything other than what it is, a crass, slightly obnoxious and high energy kids cartoon with mostly lowbrow jokes that's just trying to entertain kids without that much effort. Speaking in terms of quality, Teen Titans Go is about as aggressively mediocre as kids television can get. Saying that though, if you heard the average online person around this time describe the show, you'd think it would be about as good for kids as f***ing youth propaganda. Fans of the original Teen Titans f***ing hated Teen Titans Go, and they shouted that hate to the rooftops. Countless angry rants across social media, YouTube videos of people dunking on the show while screaming into their blue snowball racked up millions of views, and single-handedly carried people's careers. And the things that were said about this show, after watching the entire thing myself, feel slightly insane in retrospect. All these comments about how it's a disgrace, an insult to the original, that it's poisoning the minds of children, how it's one of the worst cartoons ever made in the history of ever, and it's like, god damn, they made a mid-kids cartoon, guys. It is never that deep. To this day, I have rarely seen mob mentality that rivals the unstoppable venom of Teen Titans Go haters. And this mob mentality led to some severe escalations. I mean, people sent death threats over this show. Not exactly uncommon on the internet, but over this show of all things. The initial wave of hate towards the show, to be frank, was cringe. It did not deserve this much of a reaction. And knowing how people are online, I can't even begin to imagine half the bile that was being sent towards people who were working on it, assuming they were tracked down and directly contacted in the first place, which leads us into the other reason why the hate towards the show got so bad. Let's talk about what happened when the show fought back. The reactions towards Teen Titans Go were loud and obnoxious and pretty hard to ignore, and naturally, people behind the show eventually caught wind of the insane backlash it was receiving, and given they were being sent death threats and their silly fun TV show for kids was being viciously attacked over incredibly petty reasons, understandably they decided to fight back. A lot. Like, a lot. This is where Teen Titans Go stopped being just a silly, fun show for kids, and became a silly, fun show for kids that would occasionally take time out of its day to kick the shit out of people on the internet. Teen Titans Go has several episodes making fun of the toxic fans of the original show. People who are obsessed with making the show super dark and serious, people who ranted about it in YouTube videos, people who were still clinging on to the original show despite this very clearly not having any ties to it beyond having the same characters, etc. These episodes are deemed controversial by some, and their creation only led to further outrage from the people it was making fun of, but I'm just gonna say it. I like these episodes. Quite a bit actually, based on principle alone. Like, you can tell the people behind the show could see through how absolutely ridiculous the hate campaign towards it was, because these just aren't real problems, and just wanted to poke the thousands of bears for a quick laugh at their expense given how easy it was to make them angry. This is not some immature response to criticism like so many people have framed it as. That's very disingenuous, like you definitely know what they're trying to respond to here. It's not the critiques. This is what happens when innocent people making a stupid kids show get tired of seeing tons of fully grown adults ranting and raving about their work that was intended for kids, and being harassed and told to take their lives just because the show is different from one that had ended like 7 years before it first aired. And it boggles my mind that people still can't wrap their heads around this very simple concept. I understand that a lot of people grew up with the original Teen Titans, and millions have fond memories of it for good reason. It kicks ass. But put yourself in the shoes of the people working on Go for a second. You're literally just unbothered, doing your job, making a show that's only goal is to entertain kids, and then suddenly a large section of the internet comprised of people who are definitely not the target audience are completely up in arms and saying all kinds of vile things about the show and the people behind it. While you can argue all you want about how petty the show's responses to these fans are, I can't blame them for keeping it real and pointing out that yes, these reactions are pretty insane. And the fact that the point completely flew past everyone's heads as they began disingenuously framing the show as being unable to accept critiques, continuing this back and forth hate spewing with the show for years on end and constantly giving the show ammo to fire back with, is funnier than any joke the show itself can actually muster. It's important to engage with things critically, and I think it's important to criticize content that's made for children if it's particularly poor, but being a grown adult and online beefing with a kids show that keeps making fun of you for being unhinged is a borderline Sisyphean tragedy that shouldn't even be adapted to film. It's so sad. Is the show petty? Yes. Do I think they might have responded a few too many times? Also yes. Do I think them doing this is justified? Absolutely yes. And the only reason they keep responding is because the hate hasn't stopped. It's definitely died down considerably compared to a decade ago, but it's still very much present. People frame the show as being the one soldier fighting a war that had ended like 20 years ago or something, but it's just not true. The hate has not stopped. The show recently had its 400th episode, and this caused a lot of the usual suspects to come out of the woodwork and repeat a lot of the same dumb points about the show that they've been repeating for years. The most bizarre argument I think I've ever heard in relation to Teen Titans Go is that Cartoon Network should just outright cancel the entire show because it's bad. This is a position that a lot of people seem to have for shows that are considered bad, not just Teen Titans Go. A lot of people are often in complete shock that shows they dislike or are universally considered bad keep getting renewed for more seasons, and it's because none of them actually care about how things on TV work. Ratings are everything, and if a show has a lot of viewers, it's not gonna get cancelled. Grah, why can't they just cancel Teen Titans Go already? Realistically speaking, what the f do you expect Cartoon Network to do here? It's no secret that TTG is CN's most successful cartoon ever. Even with how cripplingly irrelevant Cartoon Network is today in the face of streaming overtaking cable, the show is still bringing in the vast majority of their cash. And I have no doubts they're aware of how hated the show is by large groups of people on the internet, but negative press does not determine whether a show stays on the air, lad. If Cartoon Network cancelled Teen Titans Go, it would likely go down as one of the most boneheaded business decisions of all time. It is the corporate equivalent of shooting yourself in the balls. It makes absolutely no sense. Granted, I do understand some of the frustration a lot of people have of Cartoon Network's reliance on the show in order to stay afloat, and this is where we get into one of the other main contributing factors towards the show's hatedom: Cartoon Network's abysmal scheduling. Once CN realized that Go was making them a disgusting amount of money, they went all in. You know how after a while Nickelodeon just became the SpongeBob network? That's what Cartoon Network did with Teen Titans Go, and believe me, watching Cartoon Network during this period of time was painful. I never truly disliked the show that much, it was whatever, but man is it easy to get frustrated when you see this much fucking yellow. This wasn't just exclusive to Teen Titans Go marathons Cartoon Network would do every now and then either, though those definitely didn't help considering nothing played on the network throughout an entire week except Teen Titans Go. It just took up the majority of the time slots anyway. Steven Universe, I don't want to alarm you, but there's a bunch of ugly bitches surrounding you. This is, without a doubt, the most understandable reason for why the show is so hated. Granted, it's not the show's fault at all. The blame is entirely on Cartoon Network, but I definitely understand that a lot of people were growing patient. Certainly doesn't justify any of what we've previously discussed, but there's at least a good amount of logic here to the point that I can understand being annoyed about this. This is all a little depressing, isn't it? Let's stop talking about the hate for a second, because while I'm not a fan of Teen Titans Go by a long shot, I can't deny that the longer the show has gone on, the more it's had moments where I've actually enjoyed watching it. I'm absolutely not the target demographic for this, and there are just a lot of really bad moments in episodes here, but there are actually a decent bundle of episodes here that I think are genuinely solid and entertaining. While I tend to groan over self-aware humor and being cynical these days, I can't deny that when Teen Titans Go lands, it really does land. When they go all in on the superhero DC parody thing, they genuinely put out some A-class stuff. Whether it's gags like the Titans pretending to be all the different actors who played the Joker in previous Batman movies and then completely taking the piss out of Jared Leto, to the entire Teen Titans Go movie, which is inarguably the greatest thing to come out of this show's existence. Even devout haters of Teen Titans Go agree that this movie is genuinely solid. It still has plenty of the trappings you'd expect, lowbrow jokes and all, but it's a very fun watch with some pretty decent animation and a heap of self-aware comedy at DC's expense that I actually found pretty amusing. Look, all I'm saying is Teen Titans Go was tired of superhero movies before all of us were, and they were low-key cooking here. Genuinely, if these writers actually focused their energy into writing jokes that had more of that multi-generational appeal, then Teen Titans Go would likely be received a lot more positively, because these writers have shown that they aren't stupid, and many points of Teen Titans Go can attest to that. I mean, even outside the DC stuff, there are plenty of highlights. The show can kinda get away with basically anything. They just use the Teen Titans IP to tell absolutely unhinged stories, and I kinda love that. When was the last time you watched a show to take the stereotypical leprechaun with a pot of gold shtick, only to spend the next few minutes talking about the gold standard, the economy, and beating the shit out of President Nixon? When TTG locks in, it's absolutely hilarious, which makes me sad because they choose to not do that most of the time and just stick to being painfully average junk food. Sure, the show is aimed at kids and they don't have to try too hard, but kids should deserve smart writing. Even if Nixon jokes mostly appeal to adults, it's still a smartly written episode overall and funny for kids. If the show locked in, which they are very capable of doing, it would be received a lot better. That's how you criticize a kids show. You don't froth at the mouth unironically. Hamming up your frustration in the form of comedic anger is one thing. Of course, I used to do that because I thought it was funny, but genuine vitriol is another. And like, it's been 10 years now. 11 now, actually. And looking at people's reactions towards the show just make me feel like I'm stuck in 2013 to 2017 again. I'm not suggesting people should stop disliking the show or anything. That's an entirely different thing. Plenty of people dislike the show for their own reasons, but I feel like if you've been playing this game of sending hate mail towards a kid's show for a decade, you should just look at yourself and stop. I know this is likely gonna fall on deaf ears, or someone in the comments below will try to justify why their version of constantly hating the show 24/7 is different from the others, but I really don't understand why people are still reacting this way in 2024. It's embarrassing, especially when it's for a show that really isn't that bad. Look, I'll give you guys a pass this time around because I still have hope for you, but if I come back in 5 years and you're still doing this shit, I'm gonna show up to your house and put you on LinkedIn myself. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Play Yakuza.